come to life.
Can you still taste the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Thanks for joining on a Saturday night of college football, Major League playoffs. Just finished up with the Xfinity race at the Roval. Another exciting sports day all around. Glad you could make it in. Glad you could join. And we will try not to make this too long of a podcast, or whatever we call this. A breakdown for the Roval race at Charlotte Motor Speedway tomorrow. Let's get into it. Before we get to Charlotte, let's go back to Kansas with an exciting finish at the end with Chase Elliott on the restart, starting in 10th and in 2 laps, making it to first with 4 fresh tires and beating everyone. So congrats to Chase Elliott and whoever may have taken them. And with that win, it actually put him in the optimal lineup. Didn't quite see that making the optimal lineup, but it did, and hey, that's why we race. I also did not see Shane Van Gisbergen finishing in the top 10 with a 10th place finish, his best oval finish of this season so far, or actually of his Cup career so far. So congrats to SVG, and this broadcast will have a lot of SVG in it since we are going to a road course of types. It is a road course, but it happens to be inside of an oval, so they call it the Roval. But either way, Denny Hamlin was very dominant, leading 159 laps and getting 108 points. So you definitely had to have Denny Hamlin. And as expected, I thought we would need at least one dominant driver last week. Not sure if you ended up doing well, but a lot of the picks that I had from last week actually ended up doing very, very well. SVG was very low owned. Anybody who happened to have him actually had a pretty good day. I did not have much of him, but I still ended up finishing the top 10 in like 3 contests and ended up doing very, very well. I'm very pleased with last week's results, and hopefully you ended up with the same. So, but our optimal lineup challenge now after 31 races. Looks like Chase Elliott is got a commanding lead with 12 optimals out of 31 races. Really, really good job on Chase Elliott so far this year. Denny Hamlin with 10 in second place, and Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney with each having 9. So it seems like we're down to realistically 4 drivers battling it out for the optimal lineup challenge. Other drivers who did not make the optimal lineup. Oh yeah, Ty Dillon with a really good finish of 13th place. Good job for Ty Dillon. Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe, Larson, Reddick, Suarez, Gilliland, Byron, McDowell, all with decent finishes and almost making the optimal lineup. All right, that's enough from Kansas. We'll leave Dorothy in the rearview mirror, and we'll head to the Bank of America Roval 400 on and part of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where they race almost the entire way around the oval, but they make some shortcuts into the infield for some left and right turns. As you can see from this chart here, the layout did change last year, and they have kept that layout, which makes turn 7 down here very, very tricky. So kind of come through the infield with turns 2, turns 3, turns 4, turns 5, long straightaway to turn 6, another little straightaway into turn 7, which is a literally 180-degree turn. They've got to get down to, 20, 30 miles an hour down to first gear. You can fit cars 3 and 4 wide in that spot. It's an absolute great place for passing. Also, a great place to dive bomb and take 2 or 3 people out at the same time. We've seen that a couple times this weekend, and last year we saw it. Then they make their way back onto the oval all the way through until they get to the bus stop on the backstretch, turn 11 and 12, 10, 11, 12. Then through 13, 14 onto the front stretch, and they've got a quick 90-degree turn with 15, 16, and then 17, another 90-degree turn to the finish line. So it 17 turns, and it's always very, very exciting. Tire wear, tire wear, tire wear. I did not expect the tire wear that we saw, but when we get to the driver practice sessions with the actual speeds, the fall-off speeds is quite significant. So very interested to see tomorrow's race. And you have to bear with me a little bit. I am dealing with a little bit of a chest and head cold today, but I'm feeling fairly good. We'll try not to make this too long. I want to get to bed. My son's got some baseball games in the morning, and then we've got the Cup race in NFL tomorrow. So busy weekend. Other tracks to compare to, even though none of them really compared to it, because none of them really compared to each other than the fact that they turn right and left. You can look back at Circuits of America, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, the Chicago Street Course, and you can also take a look at Mexico. So any of the road course type tracks that they run are always good comparisons to figure out who runs well and who doesn't. And there's one that definitely runs really, really well a lot. Optimal lineups from the last 2 Rovals, 2024 and 2023. Kyle Larson leading the way in last year's race, finishing first, leading 62 of 109 laps and scoring 81.25 points. And as always, we kind of keep track of the optimal lineup points and the more expensive drivers and figuring out what that kind of looks like and how many DraftKings points they get, so that way we can start to look at who we think might be in the optimal, who's definitely not going to be in the optimal or has a very low chance of being in the optimal, and then we'll also look at the top 15. I'm so sorry. And DraftKings points. But 48 was kind of the spot for last year's Roval race. 50.9 for the 2023 race, with AJ Allmendinger leading 46 of those 109 laps and scoring 69 points. So not huge point stays and not a whole lot of place differential. This is much more of a track position style race. As we can see, 1 dominator for each of those races. 1 place differential, which is 10 spots or more of movement for the optimal lineup. And in fact, out of the entire race, there were only 3 drivers who moved up 10 spots or more, but only 1 made the optimal. The 2023 race, same thing, 1 dominator, 2 place differentials. And the values really aren't that big either. Only 3 drivers in last year's race, 1 driver of value in the 2023 race. And in the finishing spots, which is finishing in the top 10, in the top 5, we had 4 drivers in the 2024 race and 3 in the 2023 race. Victorious. I just want to say congrats to GOAT Austin Green. Yeah, he had a great finish day. He had a great practice session, had a great car. He ran in the top 10, top 5 all night long. He'll probably end up. The problem is, I don't think he's going to get into a car that really suits him, that I think he needs. If you think he could compete with Zilich, I was listening to Zilich's radio today when he had like an 8-second lead. His spotter crew chief wanted to know how much he was saving and how much more Zilich had in the car. And Zilich said, I probably have an extra 3/4 to a second that I'm kind of laying off. So Zilich definitely was just coasting there towards the end before that final caution came out. Once that final caution came out, he had to kind of step into it a little bit. But I'm not sure that there's anybody out there that really could probably keep track of Zilich. He's just a generational talent. So I mean maybe, but yeah, I mean Austin. Don't get me wrong, Austin Green is extremely good and extremely good at road courses. And if he could get into some really good equipment, I think he could easily be a playoff driver. Um, I don't think he goes out and wins 10 races like Zilich has this year. So, like I said, it just between him and the Xfinity Series and Corey Heim and the Truck Series, there's nobody that's going to touch him. So, our optimal lineups back to that in the 2022 race. Oh my goodness, I haven't talked much at all today, but I haven't talked a whole lot either. Okay. Um, the Charlotte 2022 Roval race. No real dominators, but this was the first year we had the next gen car, and it was on the different layout. So it's a little bit kind of hard to really tell, other than what the points were. But pretty much in the 50s is what we're looking at. And if we look back here, it's in the 48 to 50 range. It's kind of the bottom of the line. Then I put the Mexico race in here because it was a new track and it equaled about the same amount of laps, which was 100. And it also showed where SVG was extremely dominant with 60 of those 100 laps led. So it kind of came down to one dominator and how many place differentials. This one had 5 place differentials, but we did have that rain that started earlier in the race and caused a little bit of havoc. So not a true good comparison, but when you're comparing these road courses, they're extremely hard to look exacts. You can just really look at who's good at road courses. I mean, AJ Allmendinger for a long time was, Chase Elliott for a long time was, Larson was, Byron, Bell, Bowman. You know, there are certain groups of guys that do this really well, but there are none like SVG. He is in a class of his own when it comes to these things, and I think really the only thing that's going to probably stop him is going to be a mechanical failure or getting dumped. He just doesn't make mistakes, and he's extremely smooth. Victoria says, I think if they raced in a junior motorsports car, Green could definitely win at least 2 from Zilich. Green is obviously not great at ovals, but he can. Yeah. No, I'm not trying to diss Austin Green at all. But I mean, hands down, next to Zilich is probably Allmendinger, not Allmendinger. I'm sorry, Justin Allgaier, and running junior motorsports equipment, and Zilich is making him look silly at this point too. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think Austin Green deserves a better ride than he's getting, and hopefully he can get that. I don't know if he can get into maybe a Gibbs car, or I think Junior's. I don't know if Junior's got all of his stuff filled out for next year or not, but you know, it'd be great for Green to get into that car. I mean, his dad was a great oval driver, and Austin Green's been a really good road course driver. So, yeah, I would love to see him have that opportunity. But it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about those dollars. So our top 15 in points and where they started and how many points they were able to get. This is a very, very front of the field heavy type of race. As we could see from this chart over here, almost 6 of the top 15 start in the top 10. And the next group of 5 drivers come from 11 through 20. So literally over 2/3 of the top 15 come from starting in the top 20, and then only 3, 21 through 30, and only 1.2 starting 31st or worse. So it is a very, very, where they qualify is a lot of times where they end up finishing, and it's not a lot of place differential. We also don't have a lot of carnage typically at these style races. I say that, but after watching practice and practice speeds and listening to the driver interviews after practice, tire wear is significant for this race. Um, like severely significant. Like they're going to want fresh tires if they run 3 to 4 laps and have a caution. They're going to come in and get tires. It's that significant. It is unreal. Almost probably too extreme. Almost in the way of Bristol type of tire wear. That literally after 15 to 18 laps, we're gonna see guys that are gonna like literally their tires will be down past the cords. Um, I think I appreciate Goodyear for getting a tire that's going to wear that much, but I think we may have gotten a little too extreme. But we'll have to wait and see what the actual race brings out. But I think it's going to be extremely competitive. It's going to be who really can save their tires on who can end up getting a good finish. And no surprise on who can save their tires and run the races really well. It's SVG. Surprising though, he didn't get the pole. Tyler Reddick snuck up and got that from him by, I don't know, less than 100th of a second or something. It was crazy. But Shane Van Gisbergen, 12,500. At least he's not priced. He's priced up. Don't get me wrong. 12,500 for the Cup Series is extremely high. But Connor Zilic today in the Xfinity race was $16,000. Trying to fit him with other drivers was very, very tricky. I had some good lineups going until the last caution, and that made it a green-white checkered. And then that kind of got shot. But up until that point, I was actually winning a little bit of money. McDowell, Allmendinger, Reddick, Gibbs, Elliott, I think are the 5 best road courses. Okay. Yeah, they're not bad. I think Bell is better. I think Byron is more consistent. Yeah. Larson has had troubles, but they have not been all of his making. Prior to this season, he was incredible at it. And Elliott was just as good as Larson was in the last gen car. And then Reddick has had his moments. So SVG seems to be right now, until Zilic gets there next year, we'll have to see what Zilic can bring for SVG. It's going to be interesting to have them two as teammates and how they end up getting the resources. But SVG starting outside pole. And if I should have brought a mint or a cough drop or something. But SVG, if everybody starts looking at practice speeds, they're going to be dramatically fooled on how good SVG is. Because if you look, he was 17th in single lap. And you go, ooh, that's a little on the slow side. And then you look at his 5-lap average, because nobody really got to 10 laps, so it was 5 laps. Then he was 5th. It's like, ooh, is there a little kink in SVG's armor? Well, maybe. But when we look at his stats, they're really good. And the 3 starts that he has, which was so this line here is coming from the Watkins Glen and Sonoma race, and then the last 3 Roval races, which are the newest generation car that they're running era. So if we're looking at that, he's only got 3 starts. He has 2 wins in those 3 starts, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, an average finish of 3rd, and a 4.2 average running position. He finished 7th, which is his worst finish, at the Roval last year. And he was not running a full-time Cup Series. He has 12 total starts on road courses in his Cup Series career, with 5 wins, 6 top 5s, 9 top 10s, the 7.6 average running position. All these stats look really good. But if people also look at practice and only look at their spots, they're going to be like, ooh, there's an opportunity that SVG is not going to be as good. Until we look at his practice speeds. And what we're seeing is, yes, he may have been 17th in single lap, so which was down here on lap number 2, lap number 1. With with an 87, like 0.7, 0.8, somewhere in there. And he pretty much stays right there for the first 5 laps. Well, that's really good. And then if we look across, so it's an 80, just a little over an 87.5 time to where he finishes at almost a 90.5. So almost a 3-second fall off for about 2.5 to 2 3/4 of a second fall off for SVG. Where William Byron, who also was really good on his speed, fell off from like an 88.2 to, at the same point in time, over a 91.5. So 3.5 second fall off over 15 laps for William Byron. Well, if we're looking on a lap to lap, we're looking at this being SVG's time at just a little over 90 seconds. At the same point, we're looking at William Byron at over 91.5 seconds. That's a 1.5 second per lap difference. And if SVG has the lead and can put 1.5 seconds on what appears to be the next fastest car in the field, and we race 25 laps in the first stage, SVG could easily have a 20-second lead by the first stage ending. Richard says, I'm pretty sure Larson is behind Cody Ware in average finishes on road courses this year. Yes, but also remember why Larson was there. 2 of them, he got wrecked. One of them, he had an engine issue or transmission issue. So 3 out of the 5 races, he's had issues that were not of his doing. So, yeah, no, it is ridiculous. And Heim won yesterday with damage. Yeah, I mean, Corey Heim is extremely good in the trucks. He also has extremely good crew. And same thing could be said about Zilich. But they still had to drive their way back up there. And yeah, Heim is ridiculous. So, no, I'm not arguing the fact that Kyle Larson's average finish is awful at road courses since his win here at the Roval last year. But the thing is, man, I'm really sorry about this cough. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, so I mean, an average finish of, I mean, SVG should easily win this race unless there's a mechanical issue or somebody wrecks him. Just plain and simple. It just, the question is, how many laps is he going to end up leading? He's gonna, if all things stay the way they're supposed to, he starts in second and he finishes in first. And he, let's see, there are 109 laps. So the way you win these road courses is you pit with 2 laps to go in each stage. So you're not going to lead 2, 3, you're not going to lead 9 of those laps. So 100 laps. All right, so let's even give or take a slight miscue on pit road where you don't come out with the lead at the start of the stage breaks, or a caution comes out, or things like that. So let's say he leads, 50%? So 50 of the laps, and he'll probably lead 2-1 for fast laps. 69.75. So if we look back at previous races for dominators, Kyle Larson had an 81.25, AJ Allmendinger had a 69.15, and SVG had a 68.1. So a 69.75 would definitely put him in the optimal and maybe even potentially first. Because I don't see anybody that's starting from the rear that can come up and grab a top 10, to be perfectly honest. There are some room and opportunities for people in the 30s, but it's only 1 or 2, and that's if they get the handling right on their car before they get back out. All right, so the other person we were just talking about, Kyle Larson, and his abysmal average finishes. And for the 5 races that we're comparing to, which is the 3 Roval races, Watkins Glen and Sonoma, he's got a 24.6 with an average running position of 18.5. Not great for somebody who has 5 wins out of their 43 total starts on road courses and a 16.2 average finish for his entire career on road courses. Either way, Kyle Larson does not need to do a whole lot to advance to the next round, so it is going to literally be how bad do you want to win a race? How many points do you want to try to buffer? If you can go win the race, you can get a little bit more buffer going into the next round. So all that being said, of course, Kyle Larson's going to want to go win. He's probably going to advance to the next round, so there's not a whole lot of stress or worry about him making the next round. A lot of things would have to happen, and it would have to be a really, really weird race. And he's starting up front, so he's not starting towards the back. That'll end up becoming a problem. But here are his practice speeds. He did fire off faster than SVG by almost 0.4 of a second. But then by lap 8, his fall-off speed was horrendous. So that would be a little worrying starting up front. Other than the fact we're going to see this a lot with most drivers. So he literally by lap 8 or 9, he falls to the average, slightly worse than slightly better, then worse again. So the tire wear is redunculous. So what does it look like for Kyle Larson to make the optimal or top 15 in points? Well, starting in first, if we think SVG is going to win, we're going to have Kyle Larson finish second. And if Kyle Larson decides not to go for stage points, and I think that's probably not the case. I think he does go. I don't think he cares about stage points. I think he cares about the win. So it means he's going to end up pitting at the same time SVG does, and then be on fresh tires for the start of each stage. So if he can lead 40, because we're saying that he can lead the other 40 laps, and I don't think that's realistically the case. I think it's probably he might get to 10. Like I'm gonna give SVG the benefit of the doubt and say he's gonna lead 60. And there's just gonna be a handful of other drivers who may end up leading a few laps. What does that end up looking like? Because that's realistically how this build, how I'm gonna go about building this build is probably for at least 50% or maybe even 60% of my lineups. I'm gonna have SVG and have him as a dominator. And how do you build around a single dominator with very few other ways of making points? Because we're not going to get a whole lot of fast laps. We're not going to get a whole lot of laps led if SVG's leading that many. So if we go to the 2-for-1 special for fast laps, well, that gives Kyle Larson 48.75. And at 10,500, yeah, it's top 15 in points, but it's not probably optimal. Now, you can run with the scenario of SVG not winning this race or having mechanical issues. But I'm telling you, his speed flat out is a second and a half to a second faster than every driver in the field at lap 10. And if that stays true for the race tomorrow, it's going to be quite an SVG show. But there's always a possibility that they have a mechanical issue or a bad pit stop and he gets mired in traffic. So there is that possibility, but I'm going to lean on, because I've just been twice bitten, whatever it is, twice bitten, twice shy or something. I've been bitten too many times thinking that SVG is not going to go and be SVG. And after looking at his practice speeds, he's even better than he was at the other road courses. So not always saying that that's an absolute, but it looks pretty certain. Christopher Bell, next in line here. So Kyle Larson is top 15 in points, maybe not optimal. So, and if you go off of his averages, I mean, over the last 5 actual road courses, and this is where Victorious is right, he has an average finish of 31st. That's pretty bad. We bring in the Rovals, it's a 24.6, which is still not very good, and he's starting 4th. So it's going to have to be a really good day for Kyle Larson. That, and as of recent, I mean, other than that restart, there was no reason for Chase Elliott to win that race last week. That restart is what got him, and Denny Hamlin deciding to overdrive a corner and almost taking out one of his own team cars. Yeah, that was definitely supposed to be a Gibbs win, and Chase Elliott snuck up and grabbed that one from him. I mean, great strategy on their call. They got the 4 tires, they had the freshest tires, and were able to make that move. So good on them. So the Hendrick Motorsports have not been, they've been good. They just haven't been as good as Hendrick should be at this point, which is a little concerning getting late into the season. All right, Christopher Bell, 10,200, our first Gibbs car. Starting in 7th, he was 9th in single lap, 4th in 5-lap consecutive average. He does have 1 win out of the last 5 road courses. Oh, I don't even have that up there. Oops. 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 5th place average finish, an 8.2 average running position. Out of his 30, he finished 2nd in this race last year. 31 total road course starts with 3 wins, 11 top 5s, and 17 top 10s. So, to add to your list of really good road course drivers victorious, I would put Christopher Bell right there also. He's got 4 wins on the season. He's plus 44 on the cut line. He's in really good shape. He needs to probably get a couple of stage points, and he'll lock himself into the next round. And he'll probably end up having a pretty good day. And once again, practice speeds. It's not even close again. I mean, by lap 10, SVG's got him by 2 seconds a lap on speed. That's just ridiculous on how good of a job SVG was doing on tire savings and how bad everybody else was doing. Now, this line will come down. This line may come up a little bit. The competition will shrink this line a little bit, but they're not going to shrink it by 2 seconds. They might shrink it by 1, but it's still SVG putting a second faster on the field per lap. Like I said, I mean, you're going to easily lap half of the field by stage 2, and then the other half of the field's going to still be like, what do we do here? All right, so Christopher Bell starting in 7th, not the greatest spot to go lead any laps, especially when you would possibly have to get around SVG to do that. So we'll kind of stick with the premise of maybe he gets 10 laps of lead and 5 fast laps. We'll just kind of stick with any of the guys that we think might have an opportunity to lead some laps and put him there. Well, he's starting in 7th. And let's say he gets his 2nd place finish that he got last year. That's 51.75. I mean, that's going to be close to being in that optimal range. Might not actually make it for his price tag. It'll be close, though. But that's if literally everything falls in line like we think it's going to. If he doesn't lead any of those laps and he finishes any worse, I mean, I think his ceiling is about 52 points. Unless SVG has a problem. And that's a big if. I mean, so far, I keep going to every race going, okay, this is going to be the race that SVG has a little bit of struggle in. And he just blisters the field. So a 51.75 is probably kind of the ceiling for Christopher Bell. Tyler Reddick, who ended up taking the pole away from SVG, was not that great in practice, not even really that close. So I don't think this lead holds up more than about a lap at the best. $10,000, he is starting from the pole. He is 25th in single lap, 16th in 5-lap. He was in Group 2. And in the last 5 races that we're comparing to, the 3 ovals, Watkins Glen and Sonoma, 4 top 10s, but no top 5s. An 8th place average finish, so good, solid average finish. But starting from the pole, you're going to need to lead some laps and have a really good finish. I'm not sure that's going to be the case. He is minus 29 to the cut line. He is probably going to need to win to advance to the next round, and he knows that. There is a slight opportunity if he can get... So that's the other thing. If he can get good stage finishes, he can cut 20 points off of that, potentially. But that's not going to put him in line to get a win. Because what'll happen is, let's say SVG does go and get the lead to start, and Tyler Reddick runs second. Well, Tyler Reddick's going to want that extra bonus point and 10 points for the stage win when SVG comes into pits, because SVG's not racing for points anymore, so he's racing nothing but for a trophy. So SVG's going to pit. If this thing stays green through the stage and we get to the stage end, SVG is going to pit with 2 laps remaining. Tyler Reddick is going to stay out, take over the lead at that point. But anybody that's not racing for stage points is going to pit early, which will then leapfrog Tyler Reddick when he comes in and makes his pit stop during the caution of stage breaks. But Tyler Reddick will get the benefit of getting those bonus points for a stage win or a high stage finish. But that's going to mire him back in traffic for both stage 2 and stage 3. Now, he could potentially come back up and get stage 2 because we'll have the same thing happen again. So he can eliminate 20 of these points if he thinks he can win both of those stages. But by stage 3, that's going to mire him back in traffic. And with the tire wear situation the way it is, I don't know if he can get his way back up. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what kind of strategies Tyler Reddick comes up with to potentially get a win or to try to maximize stage points. They're kind of between a rock and a hard place. They need the stage points, but they also almost need the win to advance. So I think a lot of it's going to have to be on how fast SVG happens to fire off. If they think they can't get the win from SVG, they're going to have to go back to stage racing. So starting in first, if we think he gets second, and let's say he does lead the 10 laps and has 5 of the fast laps, that's 45.75. Yes, top 15, but 10 points away from potentially being optimal. And I really honestly think he's going to go for the 2 stage wins. He's going to get mired back in traffic, and he's probably going to be about an 8th place finish at best. Well, that just puts him inside the top 15 in points, and that's barely. So I'm, for DraftKings purposes, probably not going to run a whole lot of Tyler Reddick. I'll have some, and it'll be in lineups that do not have any SVG. I do not see a scenario where Tyler Reddick and SVG both make the optimal lineup. It's possible, but very, very unlikely because of the price tag. All right, William Byron, $9,700 starting in 13th. He is plus 40 to the cut line. So he's in an okay spot. He's not in a dangerous spot. Should be able to move on to the next round. Probably not going to worry about stage points all that much. Probably looking for just a good solid finish. Maybe even a win. In the last 5 races we're comparing to, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 6.6 average finish. And his 37 total road course starts, he's got 2 wins with a 14.8 finish, and he finished 3rd in this race last year. Like I said, he's not really racing for points all that much. It will be in the back of his mind, but I think as long as he goes out and finishes, a solid top 20 tomorrow, he'll move on to the next round with no real problem. And we looked at him earlier as being one of the drivers who was actually fairly close to SVG in long run speed, but he was still at least a second or slightly more than a second off of SVG speed, but well better than the average line of the field. So William Byron, really good. Starting in 13th, I think there's definitely room for maybe a little bit of upward movement, which would give us a little bit of place differential. And starting in 13th, I don't know if we really have a whole lot of laps led from him. So I'm going to bump this down to 5, and we'll give him 3 fast laps. And if he can move up to, let's say, 3rd, well, that's 53.6. And if he can finish any better, of course, it would go up. But I think 53.6 is probably a good ceiling for him. Almost optimal at 55. And this optimal line could be somewhere between 50 and 55 points, especially at $9,700. It's going to be close. So I definitely like the William Byron call. I don't like the fact that William Byron has definitely struggled as of recent. Um, that's been a little concerning. The Henry camp is a little bit concerning. Like Victoria said earlier, I mean, even Larson's had a little bit of struggles. Elliott's had a little bit of struggles. Elliott did get the win last week, but I mean, honestly, that without that late caution, he doesn't get that opportunity. And I think he ends up with just what I thought he was going to end up with was about a 7th or 8th place finish. Chase Elliott did, speaking of the devil, $9,500 starting in 15th. Once again, bad qualifying effort from Chase Elliott. This has been the case with him almost all year long, but he always seems to rally and get himself into the top 10. So let's see if he can pull that off again tomorrow. Chase Elliott's one of the better road course drivers. He's got 7 total road course wins in his full history of 40 road course starts. Very solid on road courses as of recent. For the 3 Rovals, Watkins Glen, and Sonoma, he's got a 12.6 average finish with 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. He finished 5th in this race last year. He is locked into the next round, so he has nothing to worry about other than trying to go get a win, and pad some points lead that he may get into the next round. Because the next round's got Talladega in it. And if we look at his practice speeds, I mean, once again, I mean, the fall off is just incredible. I mean, by lap 10, he is worse than average at this point. So just really, really rough on these tires. They're killing these drivers. And they were definitely screaming about it in their post-practice interviews. The only one who wasn't was SVG. I wonder why. But yeah, I mean, he was better than average till about lap 10. Then he fell off the average pace lead from 10th lap on. So it's going to be interesting. If he can go get to his average finish of 10th and maybe end up getting slightly better. But I don't think I see Chase leading a whole lot of laps. I mean, we'll give him the 5 and 3. And like I said, if he gets to 8th, it's 45.6. Solid top 15 in the points for DraftKings, not in close to the optimal. He's going to need to get a top 3 to get to a solid optimal place potential. It's possible with Chase Elliott. I'll put him as probably sub core. Probably not my core 15, but I also won't be a complete fade on Chase Elliott because he does have a tendency to run road courses very, very well. Chase Briscoe, next in line here at $9,200, starting in 8th. His practice speeds were abysmal. 32nd in single lap, 26th in 5-lap consecutive average. At road courses, over the last 5, or the 5 that we're comparing to, the 3 Rovals, Watkins Glen, and Sonoma, he's got a 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, a 16.2 average finish. He finished 37th in this race last year. 29 total starts. He only has 2 out of those 29 that he's finished in the top 5, 9 times in the top 10. So somewhere in the top, only a third of the time does he finish in the top 10. Can he pull that off? Again, maybe. He's plus 21 to the points line. He could be easily somebody who does not pit, does not think he's going to have an opportunity to win this race. And if he can pull a 2nd or 3rd place in both stages, that will help pad his points lead, or his cut line lead. So I see Chase Briscoe, if the opportunity suits him to potentially get a top 3 in each stage, that Chase Briscoe will take that opportunity to help give him a little bit of buffer on that line. Because when we look at his practice speeds, they're not even close to SVG number 1. They actually are almost a little bit worse than the average for most of practice. So with that being in consideration, him qualifying at 8th, I think he outkicked his coverage a little bit from where practice is. So if he starts in 8th and we think, okay, maybe we can get and hang on to a 12th, I'm not sure. We'll give him 2 fast laps. I'm not sure he leads any laps, though. I mean, he could potentially, if everybody else pits in the stages and he has the opportunity to get that 10 bonus points for winning a stage, he may take it. But if he finishes 12th, it's 29.15. It's under the 30. He's outside the top 15. I just don't really like where Chase Briscoe is starting and his average finishes and where he practiced at. There's nothing there that tells me that at best he's going to get a top 10 finish, and I don't think he gets into the top 5. And if let's say he gets to 7th place, I mean, it's 40.15 points. We're not even close to being in the optimal line at that point. So I probably will not have much of Chase Briscoe just because of his starting spot. AJ Allmendinger, $9,000 starting in 9th. Now, a lot of people are probably going to gravitate towards AJ Allmendinger. And I'm not saying he's a fade by any means, but they're going to look at practice speeds and go, oh, he was first in single lap, second in 5 lap. Okay, that was really good. He's got 1 win. He's got the Roval win of 2023. And he's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s in those 5 races we're comparing to. Really, really solid with an 8th place average finish. He finished 6th in this race last year. And he's got a 14.9 average finish for all of his road courses. We look at his practice speeds. This lap 6 was just I guess he slipped. But if we just kind of draw a line through here, he's about like William Byron. He's still not as fast as SVG. And it's about a full second of difference between AJ Allmendinger and SVG. But it does appear that AJ has got speed, long run speed that's not as fast, but on the same parallel line as SVG. So I don't mind the AJ call. He is not racing for any points. He's racing for a trophy. He's going to pit at the stage breaks and try to keep and maintain his positions. So with that being said, if we think, because I don't think he's got the speed to get up and around SVG. So with that being said, I think a 3rd place finish would be a solid day for SVG. Maybe he leads 5 laps. But I don't think he does, to be perfectly honest. I'll be very surprised if he leads any laps. But we'll give him 3 fast laps. That's 49.6. And at $9,000, the optimal line drops down to about 50 points for AJ. So that would put him into the optimal lineup range. So I definitely like the AJ call. He's going to be pretty heavily owned. I think he's probably going to be close to 30% owned. And I might be close to that. I may be closer to the 20-25%. It's definitely not a full fade by any means. He's probably one of my core drivers, my core 15. But once again, what we're trying to do is figure out a way to build lineups around SVG. And at $9,000, I think SVG could fit that mold. Chris Buescher at $8,700, starting in the 5th position. He was 18th in single lap, 7th in 5 lap consecutive average. In the last 5 races, I mean, Chris Buescher has always been known as one of the most consistent road course racers out there. And it kind of shows a 9.8 average finish over the last 5 races, a 12.5 for his entire career. You know, he is very, very solid, very consistent, especially in this next-gen car at road courses. 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 9.8 average finish. The problem is he's starting in 5th. You know, I think he could probably maybe hold close to that, maybe closer to a top 10, maybe not 5th. If we look at his practice speeds, he was actually one of the ones that was actually much closer to SVG through the 10-lap run. After the 10th lap, he falls off almost to a second and a half off of, but he was definitely faster than the average all the way across. So very consistent laps. I definitely like seeing that. I think Chris Buescher easily holds a top 10, possibly even a top 5. Let's put it on the calculator and see what that does. So let's say, and he's not racing for points, so he's just racing for the win. He doesn't necessarily need stage breaks. So I don't know how many laps he ends up leading, but we'll give him the potential of maybe 5. And we'll give him the potential fast laps of 2. Well, if he finishes where he starts, it's a 41.15, right in the middle of a solid day. Maybe not optimal. If he can get up finish third, that gets him closer, but probably not there. But it could be enough to be close enough at $8,700. I'm on the fence with a Chris Buescher, mostly just because of his starting spot. If he were starting 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th, I would, if he were starting back there, which he's not, that puts him in the optimal. That's the problem. You lose those spots because of where he's starting. And if he finishes where he starts, it's 41.15, which I think is probably more realistic. So I'll have some Chris Buescher. I'll probably have a little bit more of AJ than I will Chris, but I'm not going to fade Chris either. Ross Chastain, $8,500, starting 16th. He is minus 13 to the cut line. He is the first driver on the outside looking in. So he is looking for a Joey Logano to potentially have an issue, and then he's going to need to capitalize. Question is, does that potentially happen in the first stage, second stage? If it does, Ross Chastain's thought process on where he needs to finish will change. If something happens to Joey Logano early in this race, Ross is going to race for stage points and try to get top 10s and try to cut into that potential lead a little bit. He was decent in practice. He was 16th and 12th. And remember, he is also SVG's roommate or teammate. I said roommate, his teammate. So he followed SVG around a lot in practice. So it gave him a pretty good idea how to run some decent laps here. I don't think he's even close to being as fast as SVG, but starting in 16th, we've got some room to run. And if we look at his lap times, they're actually really, really good compared to the field. I mean, he's real close to William Byron type pace. Once again, not close to SVG's, almost a second and a half off by lap 13. SVG's just in a different universe than everybody at this point. But, I mean, as you can see, by lap 13, lap 14, these speeds really, really fall off from just, we'll just call it 88 seconds, almost all the way to 92 seconds, almost a 4-second fall off in 14 laps. So, I mean, I think we're definitely going to see everybody split the first and second stage and get tires. And then in the third stage, they probably, because it's 50 laps, will probably run 18. They'll try to stretch it and run 17, 18 laps and then get tires. So Ross Chastain starting in 16th, if he can work his way up to, let's say, a 8th place finish, does not lead any laps, but has, 2 fast laps. 44.9. It's on the higher side, getting close to the optimal, but probably not optimal. But if he can go and sneak his way to a top 5, that does put him optimal. So with that potential, I will leave Ross Chastain in my core 15 drivers that I will be taking. So I definitely like some Ross Chastain. He does have one win on a road course, and that was at COTA a couple years ago. But he's got an average finish of 16.7, and the average finish is not bad. Ty Gibbs starting in 3rd. He was 2nd in single lap, 1st and 5 lap consecutive average, and you go, okay, that's pretty good. Till you look at the actual speeds, then once again, it's not even close to SVG speed. But in the 5 races we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, a 20.4 average finish. He does have 20 starts on road courses with 5 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and a 15.5 average finish. So it's going to be a large hill for Ty Gibbs to climb to try to get a win. Now, he fired off extremely fast. Remember, he was in Group 1. Track was green, not a lot, no rubber on the racetrack. Once the rubber started to get caked in, if you happen to watch practice, we saw something very similar to what we saw at Bristol with the little rubber marbles, as they call it, all strewn throughout the racetrack. And if you get any of those onto your car, and also as rubber gets caked into the asphalt surface, it makes it much slicker, and that's why we see the tire fall off, and we also see the speed fall off from the first practice to the second practice. But once the rubber kind of got brought in by lap 12, he's 1, 2, almost 3 seconds slower than SVG. The long run speed for Ty Gibbs is concerning, especially starting in third. I don't think he's able to hold a top 5 finish. Of course, it's always possible. I think at best it's a 10th, and maybe he has 2 fast laps. And it's a 27.9. It's not even in the top 15. Ty Gibbs is a fade for me. So he could show up and have a phenomenal race tomorrow, but it's going to have to be something special. All right, Michael McDowell, who actually is very, very good at road courses. It's actually one of his better it's more in his wheelhouse than like the 1.5 miles or short tracks. He does very well at road courses on average. He is starting in the 6th position. He was 26th and 13th in practice. And in the 5 races we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 3 top 20s, a 19.4 average finish. He finished 15th in this race last year. And out of his 47 total starts, he does have that 1 win, which was at the Indy road course a couple years ago. And a 20.9 average finish. Look at his practice speeds. They're not bad. They're only within about a half a second of SVG, even by lap 12. And that's as far as Michael McDowell got. So he was able to maintain and hold close to SVG. But, I mean, still, if we're looking, if SVG's putting a half a second, even on Michael McDowell per lap, and in 10 laps, SVG's 5 seconds out in front already. And that's just ridiculous. You just don't make that up. So Mike McDowell starting in 6th. Maybe he gets to 3rd, maybe 4th. We'll put him at 3rd. We'll leave him at 3 fast laps. I don't think he leads any laps. It's 45.35. 50 needs to be optimal, but by this point, we're starting to get closer to that 45-point mark. So Mike McDowell's a possibility. When I'm running, I don't think he's going to be my core 15, but he's going to be like the 16th or 17th of my. He's going to be just at the top of my sub-core list. But I mean, all it takes is one small mistake, one small issue, fall the 10th, and you're almost outside the top 15. So there's a lot of risk by taking a Michael McDowell. But sometimes to win these things, you got to take risk. I mean, last week would have been definitely take a risk on SVG and go get a top 10. Or Ty Dillon starting 33rd and finishing 13th. Yeah, if you had the 2 of them in your lineup last week, you definitely finished really, really high up. The lineup that I had that did really well did have Ty Dillon in it. Ryan Blaney, $8,000, starting in 11th. Ryan Blaney is not that great at road courses. He's got an 18th place average finish over the last 5 races that include the 3 Rovals, Glen, and Sonoma. 2 top 10s. I mean, it's not bad. It's an 18th place average finish. It's better than Larson. He finished 10th in this race last year. He does have 1 win. I can't even remember where that 1 win. I think it came at the Daytona road course a couple years back. I think during COVID era. 4 top 5s out of 41 starts. So 10% of the time he's finishing in the top 10. So he's got the win. He's already locked into the next round. He's not going to do anything special if we look at his practice speeds. He fires up slightly better than average, then he's average, and then he's worse than average. So, and he's not even close to SVG. Nobody is, to be honest. So starting at 11th, I mean, honestly, I think that's probably, if he gets to a 10th place finish, I think that would be a pretty solid day for him. I don't think he has any fast laps. So 35 points. Oops, that needs to be 30. This needs to be 50. So I'm going to put Brian Blaney on the outside looking in for my top 15 drivers. He could be potentially subcore, but I would rather take a Michael McDowell over Ryan Blaney, even though they get 5 spots of place differential difference in them. Alex Bowman, $7,800, starting in the 25th position. He was 15th in single lap, 13th in 5-lap consecutive average. No top 5s in the 5 races we're comparing to. 1 top 10. A 16.3 average finish. Finished 18th in this race last year. His total road course history is 40 starts with 1 win and 8 top 5s. A 14.3 average finish. So not super. Once again, he was not even close to SVG speed. I mean, he was close at lap 5 and 6, and then just fell off a cliff. Pretty much like everyone else. So starting in 25th, I mean, I think he's got some. This is the bonus to Alex is he's starting in 25th. And I think he can probably get up to, probably about a 13th or 14th for this race. We put him in a 13th, and I'm not sure he has any fast laps or laps led. 42 points. It puts him on the higher side of the top 15, but probably not close enough to be in the optimal. I think to make the optimal, he's going to need to get at least a top 10 or 9th. Yeah, a 9th would probably put him there, or a top 10 would put him there. So with that being said, I don't mind running with Alex Bowman at 7,800. I think that's a decent price. I think he's probably going to have a decent amount of ownership, along with our next driver here, and Kyle Busch at $7,700, starting 28th. He was 4th in single lap, 29th in 5 laps, and he was the first driver in practice to come on the radio and be like, "Holy crud, these tires are awful." He goes, "I don't know who made this decision, but it's not good." The thing is, it's the same tire that they've run at every road course so far this year. So why the difference between this track and the others? Pavement, temperatures, all sorts of things. But yeah, Kyle Busch was not happy with the tires, especially long run speed. But he did end up having a decent practice session in the first session. But he was not happy at all with his tires. And as we can see, he fired off decent on the first lap, but by lap 6, I mean, he's still better than the average. And he was yelling and screaming. He only did 8 laps. So yeah, starting 28th, he is one of the better road course racers. But I tell you what, right now, he's got a new crew chief. His old crew chief just left. Lots of different things going on in that organization. I think we'll see a massive reorganization in the offseason with Kyle Busch and RCR as a whole. I mean, I think a 12th place finish would be on the higher end of probably decent. That's 47 points. I guess I didn't fix this, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind taking some Kyle Busch, but it definitely kind of concerns me more than the Alex Bowman play, just because of the uncertainty at RCR at this point, and Kyle not having the same crew chief he's had all year, just lots of ups and downs. So I think a 12th place finish would be probably a really good day, and I think Kyle Busch would probably be pretty happy with 12th. But I think that may be his ceiling. So I'll have some Kyle Busch because he's got some place differential, and he does know how to get around a road course decently well, but not 100% sure. Joey Logano, $7,500. I mean, self-professed, he is not super great at road course racing or at the Roval. He did have an 8th place last year, and he's got a 10.8 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. And his total work of art at all road courses, 55 starts, 1 win, 11 top 5s, 25 top 10s. So almost half the time he's finishing in the top 10, starting at 17th. He's got a little room for some place differential here. But if we look at his practice speeds, whoo boy, he is 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds slower than SVG by lap 11. That's scary. That's scary slow. So starting in 17th, I mean, I think he's going to be lucky to get to his 13th place average finish. Let's see, 17th. Probably not going to have a whole lot of fast laps. And if we get to, what did I say, 13th, 34 points. And this probably actually drops down to about 45, and this is 30. So, I mean, kind of in the middle. So, I will probably be on the lower end of ownership on Joey Logano. He's going to need to potentially get some stage points. So, he could be one of the drivers who foregoes trying to win. And if he can grab, 2 fifth place stage points, that will help give him a slight buffer on his plus 13. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the stage breaks on points. Austin Cindric, minus 48. He is absolutely in a must win to get to the next round. And honestly, I don't see that happening. So how far can Austin Cindric climb? He's starting in 19th. He was 33rd and 18th in practice. And the 5 races we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 19.2 average finish. He did finish 4th in this race last year, but his total body of work, 26 starts with a 15.7 average finish. And if we look at his practice speeds, they're at average, if not worse. So starting in 19th, that's probably about where I expect him to probably end up finishing. If he can potentially work his way up to, this is 45, and this is 30. If he can get to a 10th, that would put him in there. But I honestly don't see it being a 10th. I see it probably being at best a 15th, which is a 34.25. It is in the top 15 in points, but his average finish is closer to like 21. So I think he kind of finishes where he starts, to be honest, and that's not going to be enough. That's below the top 15. So I'm probably a fade on Austin Cindric. Denny Hamlin, 7,200. I mean, for weeks now, if you've listened to his podcast, he's like, I absolutely stink at road courses, and I stink even worse at the Roval. He's like, I need to make sure I have enough of a buffer when I get to this race that I don't have to worry about it too much. And he's there. He's plus 48. It's going to take a whole lot for him to not make the next round. He is literally going to be racing for a 20th place finish. And if he gets an opportunity to get a couple of stage points here and there, he'll take that opportunity. But to be perfectly honest, I don't have a whole lot of hopes for Denny Hamlin finishing any better than 14th. His speed was at best average, if not slightly worse. So starting in 14th, if he just goes and holds and maintains, he's not going to try to do anything dumb or stupid in this race. He wants to just make it to the next round. If he finishes in 14th, doesn't have any fast laps, doesn't lead any laps, to 29 points. Well, it's 30 and 50 for the cuts, so that takes him out of both of those. So I will probably just believe Denny Hamlin is telling the truth when he says, I'm not good at the Roval. So I'll take him at his word. Daniel Suarez, $7,100, starting in 20th. He was in the first practice group. He was 3rd in single lap, 6th in 5-lap consecutive average. At the road courses, we're comparing to the 3 Rovals, Watkins Glen and Sonoma. 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 24.2 average finish. He finished 31st in this race last year. 39 total starts on road courses. He does the 1 win at Sonoma a couple years ago with 6 top 5s. 20.1 average finish. And honestly, he fired off pretty fast in the first round and then fell off like a rock like everyone else. So I don't know if there's going to be much of a whole lot of speed here if he can just maintain his position. I think that's probably going to be a decent day. We'll give him a few spots better in the 16th. That barely puts him in the top 15 potentially in points. And in fact, this probably falls to 45 points at 7,100 to be perfectly honest. So I think we're at that cutoff line. And that's 31. So I honestly don't have a whole lot for Daniel Suarez. Carson Hocevar at $7,000. Oh man, Carson Chaos Hocevar. Every week it's something new with this kid. Fined $50,000 for revving his engine and spinning his tires when he was hooked up to the tow truck. I mean, why is your car even in gear hooked to the tow truck? You're already hooked. You're going to get towed back. It's dumb all the way around. He deserves the $50,000 fine he got. But he was 6th in single lap, 30th in 5-lap consecutive average. He only did 12 laps of practice. He spun in practice. He spun in qualifying. It was an abysmal Saturday for him. And his practice speeds, I mean, by lap 5, he's worse than average and just never recovered. I mean, he's going to overdrive the car, and if the tires are as bad as they say they are, he's going to, I think, at best finish 20th. And I don't think that's going to be enough for Carson Hocevar. This is not a Watkins Glen style race where he's just going to bide his time. So I mean, he gets to 30 points. I mean, will I take a couple of shots on Carson? Yeah, probably more like a 10%er. Just in case he happens to have a good day. But I honestly, I would put the over-under on how many times Carson Hocevar spins at 1.5, and I would probably take the over that Carson Hocevar spins twice in tomorrow's race. Or gets spun. One of the two. Ryan Preece at $6,900, starting 29th. He was 21st in single lap, 28th in 5-lap consecutive average. He's got 3 top 20s in the 5 races we're comparing to. That's not too good. 15.5 average finish. He finished 26th in this race last year. His total road course, he's never finished in the top 5, and only 3 of 28 times has he finished in the top 10. Now he's starting in 29th, so there is a little bit of room to move up. I don't expect him to move up a whole lot because his practice speeds were off the chart. They were so bad for 2 of those laps. Super inconsistent and barely got back to average even on 1. Luckily enough, he's starting much worse than average in 29th. The problem is I don't think he gets any better than, I mean, if we have some carnage, maybe he makes it to 20th. And that gives him 32 points. I mean, we're starting to get to a point. We got to pair some cheap options with SVG, and I know that. And I mean, I think I like Ryan Preece more than I like Carson Hocevar to at least potentially have at least an uninteresting race. Even though Ryan Preece sometimes likes to overdrive his car a little more than he should. But honestly, I think Bubba Wallace probably ends up having a better day. And Bubba Wallace used to stink at road courses. But as of late, it hasn't been awful for Bubba Wallace. He is starting in the 12th position. He was 27th in single lap, 17th in 5 laps, so nothing superb with his practice speeds. But he has 3 top 10s in the 5 races we're comparing to. A 13.2 average finish. He finished 9th in this race last year. He is going to need to get some stage points. If he gets the opportunity and he doesn't think he's going to be able to beat SVG, he's going to need to cash in on these stage points, just like Tyler Reddick is. The problem is we now have 3 or 4 drivers that are kind of in this boat. And the problem is if each one of them, all 4 of those drivers, all do the same thing, they don't move much on the cut line. So it's going to have to be, Bubba Wallace is going to have to race and get up to a top 5, if not try to get the win. Like I said, I just don't think that's possible because if we think SVG is going to win, that means Bubba's not going to. But starting in 12th, I mean, he's got a little bit of room maybe to run up, and his practice speeds were, I mean, slightly better than average, but still 1.5 to 2 seconds off of SVG's pace, which is about the case for everyone. So it's literally kind of like, okay, I guess I should have just been like, all right, I'm not going to use SVG as the common denominator in this process. But I always use the fastest guy as the example. But I think everybody kind of gets it. If he can, so he needs, this is 45 and 30. 45 and 30. If he finishes in 7th, actually, yeah, if he finishes in 7th, he's about 3 points outside the optimal range. This could be as low as 40, though. So Bubba Walsh could be potentially in with a 7th place finish. Not to the playoffs, but in for a potential optimal lineup. The problem is his trend line is a 13.2. His best finish at road courses for the 5 races we're comparing to is a 7th, and the last 5 road courses is an 8th. So we're looking at his best finishes over the last 5 of both of those lines. So, I mean, always possible. Does make it a little bit tough with Bubba starting where he's starting in 12th. Brett Keselowski starting 22nd is not in the playoffs and can just go for a win. But first you got to finish races. 6,500 starting in 22nd. He was 35th and 22nd in practice. He's got 3 top 20s, no top 10s in the last 5 races we're comparing to. 53 total road course starts. He's never won on a road course before and only has 7 of 53 in the top 5, 11 of 53 in the top 10. Practice speeds were, better than average. And actually his long run speed was not awful. So starting in 22nd, the problem is his average finishes are about there too, though. It's 23-19, so about a 22nd. So that's about where he's starting. So I'm not expecting a whole lot there, but we'll give him a few spots of movement upwards just to see what it does. No fast laps. Let's say he can make it up to 16th. Now that puts him potentially in the top 15, but definitely not in the optimal lineup. So yeah, I'm not sure Brad's gonna he'll make my sub core 15, but probably not my top 15. Todd Gillen, 6,300. The problem is just it's going to be a random smattering of who we think might make it. Todd Gillen might be that person, but I'm not even sure about that. Starting in 31st, he was 31st and 27th in practice. 1 top 20 in the 5 races we're comparing to, no top 10s. 24.2 average finish. He was 19th in this race last year. 23 total starts on road courses, 1 top 5, 5 top 10s, and 10 top 20s with a 20th place average finish. His practice speeds were not good. Worse than not good. So, yeah, starting in 31st, we'll be lucky to get to your... If we get to your average of 24th here, maybe that... What does that do? 25 points. Well, we need to get to at least 30 to make the top 15. And I think we're still at about 45 for optimal for 6,300. Once we get under the 6,000 mark, you can go down to 40. But how far up would Todd Gillen need to finish? 18th? Actually, this is 40, not 45. 16th would probably get him really close. So if we think Todd Gillen, that's a possibility. His practice speeds were awful, but once again, everybody's practice speeds were awful. His were a little bit worse than everyone else's. Zane Smith, here's Zane's. He's slightly better. Zane Smith is starting 24th, and he was 5th in single lap, 14th in 5-lap consecutive average. He was in the first group, which is a little bit faster than the second group. 2 top 20s, a 23.5 average finish, and finished 20th. And what a wild ride for him last week at Kansas. I hadn't seen anybody flip on a 1.5 miles in a long time. I really can't say he flipped. He just kind of rolled so gently. Sure didn't feel gentle to him, but his practice speeds were at average, slightly worse. He is starting slightly worse. So, I mean, honestly, he's starting where his average finish is. Starting at 24th, it's 24th is his average realistic. I mean, he's going to need to get at least to 14th to be in play. And that really is kind of in the middle of the road. So, maybe. I mean, we're just gonna have to throw darts at these guys at some point because I looked at this briefly earlier because I was watching the Xfinity race, I was watching football, I was putting all this together. This is the first time I've really kind of dived into this, and we're starting to get to a point to where I don't know who to put with SVG that's going to fit with his price tag. It's going to be some of these guys. I just don't know which. But I mean, Zane Smith, maybe he's got a 14th place finish in him, and that's maybe close to the optimal. Let's go back up here again and look at these optimal lineups one more time, just to refresh our memory. 40.35, 41.9, 35, 39, 44, 49, 50s. Yeah, you're going to have to be probably above 40 to really make the optimal lineup at any price range. I mean, even Cole Custer at 5,600 was at a 54. 6,100 Carson Hocevar was at 40. Ryan Preece at 6,300 was at 39. So you're going to need to be at least at 40, regardless of your price. And it's really hard to understand where a Zane Smith or a Todd Gillen, who have their averages finishes in the 20s and they're starting in the 20s, end up getting there. It's just really tough, and I don't know if Zane Smith has got a 14th place finish. Now, with this tire wear issue, we could see a fair amount of carnage. We could see a wreck fest. We could see blown tires. We could see it, but I mean, at that point, you're literally playing the lottery of who it is and when it is. It's a shot in the dark. I mean, John Hunter Nemechek, I would say, starting 35th, it's John Hunter Nemechek. He's having a pretty good year so far this year, but we look, and the 5 races we're comparing to, which are the 3 Rovals, Watkins Glen, and Sonoma, he's got a 31.7 average finish. It's actually worse than Kyle Larson's average finish. He finished 35th in this race last year. His total road course history is a 24th place average finish. Even starting in 35th, if we look at his practice speeds, he's got 1-2 laps that are at average at best, but I mean, he is starting really, really far back. He just looked really uncomfortable in practice. If he can go and get let's say he gets a 25th. I mean, that's still not even, that's 27 points. And we know you got to get to at least 30 and at least 40. So even John Hunter Nemechek starting in 35th is going to need to finish 19th. So, I mean, a 19th place finish is possible. I mean, that's almost at his average for the last 5 road courses, which is a little different than the last 5 races we're comparing to, which is 3 Rovals, Watkins Glen, and Sonoma. This is Mexico, Coda, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, and Chicago. It's a 20.6. So, I mean, if he can get close to his average for those, he could potentially be in the optimal. So, but I think with his starting spot, I think a lot of people may be apt to go after him. So it's a little bit damn if you do, damn if you don't type scenario with him. Noah Gragson, I mean, we're not getting much better here. Noah Gragson, 5,900, starting in 30th. I mean, he was at least 10th in single lap in the first practice session, which was the faster of the 2. No top 20s in the 5 races that we're comparing to. A 28.3 average finish. He finished 32nd in this race last year. Out of his 14 total road course starts, He's got a 22.3. Look at his practice speeds. They look like everyone else's. By lap 8, they are off the chart. Bad. I mean, those will improve once the race starts tomorrow, but they're not going to improve that much. And everybody's going to be dealing with the same thing. So, and I think even Kyle Busch or AJ were talking about that. They're like, my tires suck, but guess what? Everybody's tires are going to suck. So we're all in the same boat. So it's a guessing game on who's going to end up finishing well. And that was what he said. But so Noah Gragson gets to 20th. That's still not going to be enough to... It gets him into the top 15. Does not get him into the optimal discussion. But that's literally 5 spots better than his average over the last 5 road courses and 8 spots better than the 5 races that we're actually comparing to. So that's a pretty uphill climb, especially when your practice speeds fall off the cliff at lap 8. Like I said, everybody else is going to have the same problem. Now, Eric Jones is going to be the big question mark. And it was a steering pump issue that caused him to only run 2 laps of practice. And it was 34th and 35th. And it didn't even show up on the chart. So we don't have any information about Eric Jones other than he's starting dead last. And he's got to repair the steering column and the steering pump, and will still start 37th. Maybe a lot of opportunity because we're starting in 37th. Once again, there are no practice speeds. We just can go off of his averages, which is about 22nd. Well, starting in 32nd, or 37th, and finishing 22nd might really be enough. Well, probably not enough for optimal, because optimal is 40, and top 15 is 30. So, but if he can make it to, let's say, 19th, he's there. So, yeah, I mean, I think both of the Legacy Motor Club guys have the potential of being there, but also Legacy was awful last week. They were just plumb out to lunch last week, where they had been on fire as of recently. And now they show up here for the Roval, and, you know, John Hunter's practice speeds look like this, and Eric Jones' practice speeds aren't there. So I don't really know what to make of it, other than it's a shot in the dark, and I will, starting in 37th, he has no room to go but up. The problem is if he finishes 34th, that doesn't do any good. I mean, yeah, it's place differential wise, it's on the positive, but you're still only going to get 10 points. So that does you no good. So it's a big unknown on whether Eric Jones can actually be of help or not. It's a shot in the dark. But honestly, at this point, we're shooting in the dark back here anyways, because nobody back here has any decent finishes on road courses. And we're going to have them to be in the optimal lineup when it comes to road courses. So, I mean, the last time SVG did this, it was at Chicago. Do I have Chicago? Or Mexico, I mean. Yeah, Mexico, SVG, first to first. He won by like 17 or 18 seconds. He led 60 of the 100 laps. Christopher Bell went from 31st to 2nd. Okay, that was an easy one to pick. Alex Bowman from 29th to 4th. That one's actually pretty easy to pick. Now, here's a John Hunter, 32nd to 6th. I don't need John Hunter to even do that. But we also had a William Byron starting 27th. We had guys that were had high confidence that they were going to be able to move through the field. The Cole Custer was unexpected. So, was there another race where, let's say, Kyle Larson started in 6th to 1st? He was at 10,200. But I mean, SVG's 12,500. He had 900 left. So, I mean, you're still talking about having to find 2 or 3 guys that are in the $6,000, $7,000 range. And honestly, I just don't know if it's there. I mean, yeah, Carson Escobar started 20th and finished 12th in last year's race. But I wouldn't have seen that coming. Um, so I don't know. Justin Haley, 5,700. I mean, he's a decent little road course racer. He battled the SVG 2 years ago at Chicago, and he has shown speed from time to time on road courses. I mean, he's got a 19.2 average finish, which is a little better than the last 3 or 4 guys we've looked at. But he's starting in 21st. I just don't know if there's much room for him to move up the food chain without some real help. And if we look at his practice speeds, they're god awful. There's not one that even hits close to average. And the problem is he's starting right at that average line at 21st. I mean, if the average is about 19, middle of the field, he's starting 21st. His practice speeds are worse than that. And his average finish is about 20th. So there's not a whole lot of help here. I mean, it's 24 points. And that's not going to cut it. I mean, he needs to get to at least 40 for optimal, 30 for a top 15. It's not there. Cole Custer starting in 18th. If Cole were starting in 30th, that might be somebody we could potentially look at. But Cole Custer starting in 18th when his average finish is 27th and 20th. He didn't race in this race last year. His practice speeds were slightly worse than average. And he's starting slightly above average. Who are my favorite drivers? $7,500. I mean, Scott, that's what we're just looking at. A favorite? I mean, a shot in the dark with Eric Jones? It's definitely not a favorite. I mean, 7,500 starts with Joey Logano. Maybe. Doubtful, though. Austin Cindric, maybe. Doubtful. Denny Hamlin says he's awful at the Roval, and he's starting 14th. Suarez starting in 20th. Carson Chaos Hocevar starting in 27th. I mean, honestly, Ryan Preece starting in 29th might be somebody I'll lean a little bit more on. I do like the Bubba Wallace call, but he's starting in 12th for DraftKings. I don't know if it's a favorite. I'll have some ownership in him because he's also going to need to score a decent amount of points in like playoff points for him to try to advance to the next round. So $7,500 or less. Probably an Austin Cindric. Maybe a Joey Logano. I mean, maybe Denny's just trying to pull everybody's legs, but I mean, his average finish is 21.8. He's at 7,200, starting in 14th. I mean, we just already sat here. Even if he finishes where he starts, it's 29 points. It's not in the top 15. I mean, Ryan Preece seems intriguing. At least his average finishes are 15.5 for the 5 races we're comparing to, and he's starting in 29th. So, Ryan Preece. Brad, no. Todd, maybe, but his average finish is 24th. Zane's 24th, and his average finish is 24th. John Hunter starting in 35th. I mean, I like the John Hunter play, even though his practice speeds suck, but everybody's practice speeds suck. Noah Gragson, his average finishes suck. His practice speeds suck. Eric Jones has no practice speed because of steering issues and only made 1 lap and pulled it in. So we have no information on that. Justin Haley starting too far up. Cole Custer starting too far up. I don't put Cole Custer on the chart. Even if he goes and gets his best finish, which was, I think, 6th at Mexico. I mean, that gives him 50 points. He's definitely optimal if he does it. But that was such a one-off. I mean, what's his average? 20.5. He's not going to get a 6th place finish unless just something wild happens. Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, Scott, I don't know is the answer. Maybe an Austin Dillon starting in 36. He has an 18.6 average finish. But like I just said about Kyle Busch, I mean, RCR is going through a massive transitional period right now internally. They lost the crew chief for Kyle Busch. Um, I would almost speculate that Austin Dillon at this point potentially is contemplating, and this is all speculation. I haven't even heard a rumor. I heard a rumor last year that there was a potential he was going to retire and take over for Richard, and lead RCR as president CEO type. But I haven't heard that rumor come around this year. But I honestly think that RCR there something needs to drastically change within that organization for them to be competitive again. And we look at Austin Dillon's speeds, they're just super inconsistent. Um, but starting in 36th, I mean, what if he can get to his average finish of 18th? It probably plays. Let's see. If he gets to 18th, starting 36, not going to have any fast laps. Just take that out of the equation. It's 43. So that plays. The question is with this type of practice speeds, can he actually get up there? I absolutely will take some shots on Austin Dillon. At least at some point he was 24th in practice. Eric Jones, we don't even know if he was that because he only turned one lap and was like, "Oh, something's broken. We got to fix it. We can't practice." Yes, I mean Austin Dillon starting in 36. There's lots of room to run for he and Eric Jones. The problem is, we're probably going to be with a lot of the other field because we're looking at putting in a 12,500 SVG. We're going to have to run at least one or two of these $5,000 guys, and then pair it up with some of the more high price drivers. This is such a front loaded. It's very rare that we even have one driver in the 30s make the optimal, much less the top 15 in points. It's just super hard. So the averages say to only take one, max two drivers that are starting in the 30s. So where does that leave us? I mean, you just have to go over the assumption that SVG is going to absolutely stomp the field. Nobody else is going to lead any laps at all. He's going to have like 85 points, and everybody else is going to be negated to having 45 or 50 points, and just throw darts at it. Honestly, I just don't know. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 26th. He has an average finish of 25th. Total starts on road courses at 21.9. We look at his speeds, at least they're slightly better than an Austin Dillon, but Ricky Stenhouse is starting 10 spots better. There's not a whole lot of place differential for him to run. It's just it's going to be just super random. That's the best way I could put it. Now, I mean, do I think the best potentials are probably Eric Jones and just be even with the field on it and be 25% owned of him. Have 20-25% of Austin Dillon, but that's probably what the rest of the field is going to be. A Ricky Stenhouse is going to need to get to a 14th, probably. Yeah, well, he's not going to have fast laps. Yeah, a 14th place finish for a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. would probably put him there at 41 points, or put him really, really close. He's not going to hurt your lineup. But his average finish is 26th and 25th, and his best finishes are 18th and 16th. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, he's got a 14th place ability when he's only got two top 10s and his entire 47 starts on road courses. Yeah, he's got 24 top 20s, but I don't know how many. I mean, only twice in the top 10. Now I want him to finish 14th. That's an uphill climb. Riley Herbst, I mean, he slammed the wall. Why? How his car was still able to finish practice and actually qualify and qualify 23rd is absolutely beyond me. But I will not be surprised if tomorrow morning wake up that he has had to make major repairs to his vehicle and will have to drop to the rear. Now he'll still start in front of Eric Jones because at least he had a qualifying spot. But um, it, I fully expect Riley Herbst to have to start from the rear. Same thing with Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar had to get towed back to pit road. So I expect him to probably end up having to start from the rear also tomorrow. So keep that in mind. But yeah, Riley Herbst starting in 23rd. I mean, once again, his average finish is worse than his starting spot. And his practice speeds, even after hitting the wall, I mean, he clobbered the wall. He had 2 tires off the ground. I'm still shocked that the car was able to run as well as it did. So, I mean, maybe there is something to that, but if he has to go to the rear, that's not going to be good because I mean, at best he's going to come up and get to his average finish, which is 23rd. Even at 5,100, that's 18 points, 19 points. Not enough to get to even 30. You know, Ty Dillon starting in 16th. His average finish is 25th. 30 starts, 20 times he's finished in the top 20. Never in the top 10. He's got a 25.4. And now he's starting in 16th. With practice speeds like this. Yeah, he's teammates with AJ, and he's probably going to continue to learn and improve as long as AJ and he are still teammates. But it's not going to improve overnight. I mean, he's starting way too far up. I don't even put on the calculator. It's negative place differential. I mean, even if he goes, let's say he finishes one spot better than what he starts, and that's a really big uphill to climb. Gets to 15th. 29 points. Well, he needs to get to 30 to be in the top 15. That's not going to happen. Cody Ware starting in 32nd. I mean, his practice speeds were even worse than everyone else's. So at best, he's going to finish where he starts. I don't even need to put on the calculator. And Josh Bilicki was even slower than, I mean, he wasn't as slow as Cody Ware, but he was right there with him. I'm not even going to put it on the calculator. I didn't even make a chart for him. So, yeah, so I mean, Kyle Busch is $7,700. At least Kyle Busch has, in this year, has actually battled for top 5s and top 10s and potentially even wins on road courses this year. Everyone else behind it, no. That's why Kyle Busch ranks so high in my algorithms, is he's actually been able to battle and be up there for potentially decent finishes. But it's really worrying when his crew chief is gone and RCR is having real issues. So I don't know how much I can trust Kyle Busch, but I'm going to put him in my lineups. But he's $500 more than your $7,500 that you were asking for. So I don't know if it's close enough, but I mean, potentially. You know, then beyond that, I mean, looking down through here, I mean, I think a Chase Elliott's not bad, but he's $9,500. It's expensive. I'll have some though. He's 15th. He's probably going to go and finish 7th or 8th. Alex Bowman starting in 25th at 7,800. I'll be more than happy to take some of that. And Orion Priest starting 29th. But Joey Logano, I don't know if I trust it. He's going to need to end up finishing well or finishing stages well. Brad Kay, I mean, he's probably going to finish where he starts. Bubba Wallace, I mean, he has gotten a lot better on road courses, but I don't know if I could trust it. Riley Herbst, no way. He's going to have to go to a backup car or have repairs that are going to put him at the rear of the field. I think Austin Cindric is starting too far up. Eric Jones, we don't know anything about. He could come out tomorrow and the entire setup is all wrong. and he runs in 34th, and we've just wasted that pick. Justin Hilly starting too far up. Austin Dillon, I mean, same thing with Kyle Busch, but I'll give him some shots because at least we have some practice speeds. It may have been bad, but at least we know he's going to run. Carson Chaos Hocevar, I mean, wrecked twice in practice and qualifying. Suarez, probably going to finish where he starts. And I mean, all the resources are going to Ross Chastain. They're all going to SVG to go get the win. Hamlin, self-appointed I suck at Roval, is starting 14th. I'm going to trust him at his word. John Hunter, I mean, practice speeds weren't great. His average finishes aren't great, but at least he's a potential. So, I'll take some shots on John Hunter. I'll take some shots on Eric Jones. I'll take some shots with Austin Dillon. But these are all going to be pretty highly leveraged drivers that I'm picking out because there's a reason why I'm picking them out. So they're probably going to be pretty heavily owned. I mean, I'll take some shots on Zane Smith because it's probably not going to be super highly owned. I mean, Noah has the potential of having a decent day, and he's got plenty of place differential. And you're not going to need a ton. This is not like one of those, especially with the mindset of SVG is going to go. He's going to lead 80 of the 109 laps, if not more. It's not even going to be close. We just have to go with that mindset. There's just nothing else to say about it. He's well over a second faster than the entire field by lap 5 on. There's just no indication anywhere. He's won 4 of the last road course races. He's absolutely hands down the fastest in practice. I'd love an argument of somebody to tell me why he's not going to just annihilate the field tomorrow. And with that premonition, we have to just go off the instinct that that's going to be what it is. And if that's the case, who do we pair with him? I mean, a William Byron moving up to second potentially plays. A Christopher Bell, maybe. A Tyler Reddick starting the pole? No, not at all. Even if Tyler Reddick finishes in 4th, it's not going to help. So, maybe an AJ, Brian Blaney's not going to finish much better than where he starts. I mean, maybe he gets to 5th, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough because he's not going to lead any laps. He's not going to have any fast laps. Yeah, I don't see a solid pairing for much. So that's why I think because of SVG potentially doing what he did at Mexico, we might see the averages flip a little bit to where we see more guys in the 30s that end up with a 18th place finish, making the optimal lineup. Because, I mean, if you start, I don't think Cody Ware's going to do it, but I'm just going to use his calculator because it was the first one closest. But if you can go and get a 14th place finish, I mean, that's 49 points. If it's, let's get somebody else. Yeah, Austin Dillon, starting in 36. If he gets to 18th, that's 43 points. That probably puts him in the optimal lineup. If it's 20, if he finishes 20th, it's 40 points, 39 points, which is probably close enough at 5,400 to probably put him in the optimal lineup. So that's why I don't mind taking quite a few shots on Austin Dillon. But the problem is, how are we going to differentiate with this? So, I mean, I think Austin Dillon's a fine play, and I'll play him. But I think he's also going to be leveraged. And we need to find who is potentially not the leverage. Like, I think John Hunter Nemechek is probably a decent leverage. Is it a Zane Smith starting in 24th? Where all he's got to do is get the 14th and ends up with the same amount of points as Austin Dillon starting in 36 at 39 points? I mean, yeah, that's probably a good potential. I think that's a good way to potentially find something a little bit sneakier. Um, a Ryan Priest starting in 29th needs to finish in 17th, 16th. Yeah, 16th or 17th. Okay. Maybe we take some shots on that. But favorites? If you're still listening, Scott, I don't know if I have a favorite back here. I don't. There's nobody really starting outside the top 20 that I think realistically on a normal day is going to get a top 20. So we don't have anybody up front that is starting in the back. Now, if we look at here, you've got Eric Jones. I mean, even if his average finishes are like 20, 21st, Austin Dillon, same thing. John Hunter, same thing. None of these guys have average finishes above 20, and they're all starting in the 30s. So, I mean, one, maybe two of these drivers end up doing it. Then we've got the guys that are starting in the 20s. I mean, maybe a Kyle Busch, maybe an Alex Bowman. Ryan Preece does not have an average finish above 20. Brad Keselowski does not. Riley Herbst does not. Justin Haley does not. Carson Hocevar does not. Zane Smith, Noah Gragson, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. None of those do. So you've got Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, and a maybe Ryan Preece. Guys that are starting 11 through 20, William Byron definitely has an opportunity. Chase Elliott definitely has an opportunity. Ryan Blaney's probably going to finish where he starts. Maybe he gets a little bit better, but I don't think he's going to end up in the top 4, top 5. Bubba Wallace, maybe he gets to 5th. Austin Cindric, maybe a 10th, but that's asking a lot for somebody who's got an average finish of like 18th or 19th. Suarez has an average finish of where he's starting. Hamlin says he sucks. Cole Custer and Ty Dillon, I mean, not even close to being in the top 20. Then we look over here. Yeah, SVG, fastest all the way around. We've talked about it a million times. So, check. But if we think that's going to be the check, Tyler Reddick does not end up being a check. Because he's going to have negative place differential. First off. And number two, I think SVG is going to lead all the laps, or lead the majority of the laps, which leaves Tyler Reddick out to dry. Chris Buescher, great average finish runner, but he's starting in 5th. So, I mean, more likely he's going to finish there. Kyle Larson, same thing. Super inconsistent road courses this year. Ty Gibbs, I don't think Ty Gibbs gets around SVG, and I don't think he gets around Tyler Reddick. I mean, AJ and Ross are probably decent plays starting in the top 10. But I mean, once again, you almost have to kind of go, okay, SVG's out. And we're not going to have any dominator points. Who's going to end up with the best finish? Because the best finish is what ends up playing. Because if the easiest way to look at it is who Tyler Reddick is starting in first. If you take all laps led out and fast laps, start in first, finish in first, I think it's 45 points. Yep. So that's first place pays 45 points in DraftKings. Well, a first to first doesn't get you close to the 55 optimal. Solidly straight in the middle of the top 15. But I mean, we all know that if you finish first, you're going to lead some laps. So then at that point, it's how many laps can he lead? Or would he have to lead to make it to 55? And it's 40. Now that's without any fast laps, and I understand that. But do we think Tyler Reddick, with these speeds, are going to beat SVG at his speed? No. Now, there's always mechanical issues. There's always strange cautions. There are strange things that happen throughout a race. But I just, yeah, I mean, am I going to run 100% of SVG? Absolutely not. So the The ones that I don't run SVG, who do you run? Who do you think ends up being, you know, the next guy? If SVG does have a blown engine, a blown tire, um, happens to have the same thing that happened to Corey Heim in the first one, but it's worse damage and he's out. How do you then start to build your lineups? And that's, 60% of my lineups are going to have SVG. Okay, great. What are the other 40% of my lineups going to look like that don't have SVG? So then it's like literally take SVG out completely out of the equation and then run your lineups. And that gets a little convoluted because you literally have spent your 60% of your lineups going, SVG is going to kill everybody. So, then at that point, Tyler Reddick does come into play. The Kyle Larson does come into play. A Christopher Bell absolutely comes into play. Christopher Bell is number 2 in my ranking system. Tyler Reddick Christopher Bell has an average finish of 5th. And an average Draftkings of 45.5. 4 out of the last 5 races, he's finished in the top 10 or top 5. So Christopher Bell, great pick to start with building a lineup. William Byron right there, plenty of place differential. He's got a 6.6 average finish. If you're going to build, and you're going to have to build some of your lineups with an SVG and a William Byron. The problem is, at that point, you're starting to eat a lot of salary cap. And then you got to figure out how do you build the rest of it. So, long story short, it's going to be an interesting race. The tire wear is, I think, going to be fascinating to watch, at least for the rest of the field. Looking at SVG down here, he still lost 2.2 seconds after 14 laps. That's just unheard of on any track. And it's very possible that SVG goes and runs 18 laps, blows a tire, hits the wall, and is out and is done. And then how did you build your lineup then? And that has to be part of the scenario and thought process on when you're building your lineups. So, good luck. I'm kind of scratching my head on how do you build around SVG or how do you build without SVG? Those are the two. That's the biggest question. Is how do you build with SVG and then how do you build without SVG? I think I gave some pretty good examples. I think a Christopher Bell is a great way to start your build without SVG. I think a Tyler Reddick is a decent build without an SVG because then Tyler Reddick does maybe potentially get dominator points. William Byron's got some place differential. A Chase Elliott has nothing to lose. He's already into the next round. So yeah, there's ways to build it. It's just you got to figure out which one of these numbskulls back here are actually going to have a good day. And there's no indication on practice. Everybody struggled. Everybody was having issues. So, good luck. I hate to say it that way, but I'm shooting in the dark too. It's going to be interesting. Try to figure out who's going to be the sleeper. A Zane Smith, a Noah, a Todd Gillen, maybe a Josh Berry. Josh Berry sucks at road courses, but maybe he ends up, because he's really good at tire conservation, maybe he does end up pulling something off. I don't like Ty Dillon or Cody Ware. Don't like Josh Bilicki. So, yeah, that's where we're at. It's probably not a bad idea. I'm probably going to play about the same. I'm also playing with a little bit of house money now because I did have a good week last week. So I've been playing with house money all week. But I won $50 in the trucks and I lost $60 in Xfinity today. So I'm down 10 for the weekend. But I did hit a four game college football parlay, and I think I'm in pretty good shape for a 4-game parlay now. Well, I took Florida State. I think they're only getting 4.5. So they're gonna have to score another touchdown, which they're getting the ball back right now. So maybe they do. Maybe that covers. Kansas is covering. So I don't know how the rest of my late slate's going, but either way, yeah. I mean, playing light tomorrow may not be bad. Make sure you play in some tournaments that aren't the heavier tournaments, like the Chrome Horns, super heavily. There's too many people that play in it. There's too many opportunities for randomness to bite you. Or the single entries, the 3 maxes are a little less wonky. That's probably where I'll end up going. But I mean, I'll still throw probably 5 lineups in the Chrome Horn. So, all right, that's it. Next week we are headed out to Las Vegas for a Sunday night brawl at Sin City, but the Xfinity race is also Saturday night, so I will be going live right after the Xfinity race or shortly after the Xfinity race. So I don't know exactly what time that'll be. It'll probably be closer to 10 is usually kind of when that ends up happening, but I have to kind of wait and see. So I will see everyone next week. If anybody happens to hit big, make sure you let me know in the comments. I would love to shout you out if you end up doing well. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see everyone next week. Thanks for bearing with my my cough. It seems to have gotten a little bit better, but I really hadn't talked much earlier in the day. So good luck. See you soon.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still pace the field? Yes. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You are fine. Nobody's gotta run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.